It's Morris Anderson again, and another little quick video based on some of the results I've been getting lately. Of course, yesterday I talked about the draconian journeys. That's kind of a tough tongue twister to say sometimes. So the draconian journeys, how I played my song Illusions of Reality. Got a couple responses off that. Been talking to a lot of people. Of course, I am promoting really heavily right now, trying to find a shareholders representative. And as I talked to people, I was like, hey, I'm so excited. We have Dragon Eye Studios and Institute Incorporated registered with the Securities Exchange Commission. And if I say the SEC, they think the Southeastern Conference for football. And no, we are not doing anything with the college, Southeastern Conference, anything like that. But that's where most people think of the SEC. But in our terms, it is the Securities Exchange Commission. So that brings up a lot of other questions of what really is the Securities Exchange Commission. So we can go clear back to the 20s. They call it the Roaring 20s if you've studied any of the U.S. history. And in the 20s, the economy was great. Things were going really good. By the time we hit the 30s, things weren't so great. We had the Great Depression. And that was caused mostly because a lot of greedy investors oversold their companies. A lot of greedy companies oversold their shares. On the other end, the greedy investors. So I wasn't missing anybody out there. So the greedy investors bought too much. And when they saw that the stock market was crashing, they're like, I'm going to go get my money. They're going to go pull out all their money. And that just made it drop even faster and further. So everybody went into a big financial panic back in the 30s because of that. If you've heard of the FDIC, Federally Deposit Insurance Corporation, I believe that's what it stands for. If you doubt me, and I doubt myself a little bit, look it up and get it. I just don't remember right offhand. And that's not part of my point anyway. But the FDIC was created along with the Securities Exchange Commission. And I got some notes over here on my computer. I'm just going to look up real quick. History of the SEC. It was in 1934. And it was designed to restore investors' confidence in our capital markets. So that's what the intent of it was for. So when I come out there and say, hey, we are registered with the Securities Exchange Commission and we're allowed to sell shares. Well, you should be skeptical on that because that is what created the Securities Exchange Commission to start with. And when you start getting skeptical of something, that doesn't mean to retreat. It doesn't mean to go away or taboo it. That means to learn it, to study it, learn, find out why is it this way. So the Securities Exchange Commission came in and said, here are some rules for corporations. Here are some rules for investors. We need to create trust and credibility between the two, because between them, we start getting a lot of investor money to make businesses, which hire people, which make product, which then grow the GDP. And that's gross domestic product. And that's a big thing that economists are always looking at. And this year, we've been shown it's hitting over 4%, which is amazing growth. And the last year, China's actually dropped on theirs. So economists, politicians, everybody is watching GDP. Except for the politicians, they watch GNP too. That's gross national product, which is what they tax you on, which is the big difference. So I prefer the GDP, where we're making something instead of paying something. Anyway, the Securities Exchange Commission over the years created all these things. Of course, as you start creating bureaucracies, it starts getting convoluted. Back in 2007, I did a project I called Sports Mall, which was a project down in Goodyear, and we had actually gone through what's called Regulation D, which is also through the Securities Exchange Commission. And that allowed me to sell corporate shares at that time, but to only accredited investors. Accredited investors meant they had to have $1 million net worth, and they had to be intelligently savvy with the stock market. And it was really, really tough to find accredited investors. I couldn't just go to my neighbor and say, hey, do you want to invest? In fact, they had a couple of rules, and they still do exist in a couple areas of the SEC, where I cannot say, hey, buy corporate shares. I'm doing this offering. These are my plans. Here's what I'm doing. That's still illegal in many cases. And it was really difficult to find a good or accredited investor. What I ended up doing is we raised $96 million, had that into an escrow account, and the money actually came from a British hedge fund. So they were able to fund it. To them, that was like slush money. So you get these hedge funds where they are taking mostly a lot of 401k money from people. And so if you work for a company and they say, if you invest a portion of your paycheck, this hedge fund is going to operate this mutual fund. I know that's a lot of different steps around, but that's how it works. And they will match it. If you put in, they will match it. But then those corporations work with a specific hedge fund manager. And of course, there's a kickback. There's all these other things that go on. And so I kind of went through that system to get that British hedge fund. And they really weren't playing on the business plan I created. They were playing on the euro versus the dollar. Because back in 07, 06, if you study the Forex, which is the foreign exchange between the currencies, then at the time the dollar was up and the euro was below, but it was planned, and you could see it. It was about to change. So they were going to go on the growth of that, not necessarily the business. However, the business was pretty darn good. And I had to go through a broker-dealer, a specific person who put me in contact with that hedge fund. So under Regulation D, it was hard. We had to pay somebody to find us somebody to invest. And there are other things like angel investors that qualify, or you might get a group of a company that's an investment fund where they'll pull all these people's money together and invest into something big and try to give everybody a return. But then you're better off with mutual funds as well, because they're going to scrape off the top and you only get a little bit. Anyway, that's beside the point. So we have filed Regulation A, which passed with the Jobs Act. And I've got a couple other things. Federal securities markets. I guess I may have accidentally closed that tab out. However, Regulation A went through all of these regulations, and they actually cut so many of these regulations out. I can now legally and officially say, do you want to buy shares? With the event of and the growth of the internet, people can communicate, people can study, they can learn, they can say, oh, this is good. Oh, no, stay away from this one. So the SEC decided to allow some of these small businesses under the Jobs Act, or jumpstart our small businesses. And they got rid of that solicitation where I can solicit anyway. I actually read a paper the other day. It was kind of funny. I could have a skywriting airplane saying, invest in my company. So I can put it out there pretty much any way I can possibly think of. And that allows us to collect money up to a certain point. So what I need you to do, this is very important. A lot of the reason for the Securities Exchange Commission, like I said, it was to build the credibility. We had to file and get a CIK number. And I'll put this number at the bottom description for the video as well. But type in 000, so that's 3 zeros, 1709247. So if anybody ever comes to you and says, invest in my company, ask them for their CIK number. That was my CIK number I gave you. And again, it's 000-1709247. If you type that into your web browser, hit enter, and it's going to bring up my Securities Exchange papers. And it's going to have my Regulation A filings in there. So you can read everything that I have submitted to the Securities Exchange Commission. Every single piece of how this works. So the biggest thing that people are asking me is like, okay, you have a shareholder representative. And that is somebody who is going to be helping promote these shares, somebody that is going to go out there. When I filed these papers with the Securities Exchange Commission, I had to say, how much am I going to pay from this investor money to a representative? How much commission are they going to receive? And there's a whole bunch of other ones, but I had to put a hardline number of, and the industry standard is about 8 to 10%. Well, I want my shareholder representative to have the upper end. It's like, you are representing me. I want you really good. So I'm offering or giving 10% of the shares. So whoever becomes my shareholder representative, when a share is sold, let's say they sell $100, well, they will get 10. That all goes into one specific account, and we will pay the shareholder representative directly from that account. And it can be paid daily, or as long as there is a transaction going into the account. And that is something that we've listed. I want people to know this is legal. So that's part of the song with Illusions of Reality. Is like, is this legit? How do I find out? How do I know? And the goal process, and that's why I gave you the CIK number, so you can go and look at the Securities Exchange Commission yourself and say, hey, this is here. It is documented. And that is so important to be able to know that. So again, if anybody else comes to you and says, here's an investment opportunity, look into it. And, ask them for that CIK number. So that's just good investor knowledge. If you keep watching the stock market, in the last 2 years, it has reached record number, I think it's like 16, 18 times where it has reached a new high. And that's really amazing. It didn't reach a new high since I remember when I played the stock market game back in 2000 or 1994, 95 era. And ever since then, it kind of flatlined. So it's really exciting to know that the economy is growing, the GDP is up. And this is just personal perspective. People keep saying, oh, the market goes up, it's got to crash, it's got to crash. Well, yeah, we saw that in 07. It went up from 2001, 07. It just climbed. But the only thing that was missing was there was no growth domestic product. It flatlined. It didn't go anywhere. So when you start seeing the Dow Jones climb, but yet GDP stay stagnant, that's a lot of snow on top of a mountain ready for an avalanche. That is the one thing to look for. So in this case, I think it's different because unemployment is low. Our employment didn't change between 2001 to 2007. So yes, it was bound to crash. Our GDP didn't change from 2001 to 2007. That's where I think the economy is going to start stabilizing. I believe it's around 25, 26,000 right now. I haven't actually checked for a few days. But anything over 24,000, and again, this is personal speculation, is a good baseline. As long as we stay above that 23, 24,000 on the Dow Jones, I think we're going to start seeing more growth. Right now, it has to level, in opinion, because it takes a while for new businesses to get settled. Just to go get permits to start a new business. I've done that many times with the gymnastics clubs, and it takes 7 months to a year, even a year and a half. That is if the building is ready to go. So if you want to build a new building, you're at least 16 to 18 months down the road. So let's go back 18 months ago. The economy, boom, took off, unemployment dropped. It's all construction right now. So while that is being constructed, yes, it's going to level. However, it's only going to stay there for a while. When these businesses open, new people get hired, you're going to see that climb up again. Personal projections, like again, it's just fun to speculate. I see 28,000, 28.5 within the next, I'd say 12 to 16 months, which means businesses need advertising, which means businesses need to educate their new employees. As well as I said yesterday's video, businesses need to educate their customers. This is where the Dragon Eyes Syndicate comes in. We are telling them, here is your new business. In fact, the customer I got this week, it is a brand new business in this location. So they need to start telling people, here we are, here's what we do, here's how we do it, here's why we are better than everybody else. Because they're starting to get in on the early front of this, and they were fortunate because I don't think in another 5 to 6 months with new businesses, we're going to have a building shortage, at least here in this Peoria area. Other areas might be a little ahead. Some people might be a little bit behind on this and the infrastructure. So every city is going to be different, of course. And that means we, as a magazine, are going to start seeing more customers for us. But again, go to dragoneyes.org. I want to see businesses teaching their customers how to do things. I want to see them educate people. That's what businesses do. And if you read the Go process, there's a big section. Well, not really big, but there is at least a section where it is, where do you learn the most? And advertisements. I have learned more by picking up magazines and reading a company's promotional material. They have to educate people, otherwise you will not purchase their product because they don't know about it. So that's why the Institute portal is such a big deal in education, doing things, learning things. And I feel like we are at the forefront of this new boosting economy to be able to take advantage of that, grow the magazine, help businesses grow. Uh, and it's kind of fun. Again, we are back on this Regulation A. That is very new. That is something that passed back in 2012, and not very many people knew about it. Let's go back down to the Dow Jones again in 2012. We were probably, 12,000 to 14,000 range. It really never broke over the 15, 16,000 range between 2014 or 2012 to at least 2015. And so when they did the Jumpstart Our Business Act, or the Jobs Act, and revised Regulation A, businesses were not in a position to take advantage of it. So it's not really exactly new, but it is new to the market for the economy. Because I've watched the Job Acts go through Congress, and I watched it get signed the day Obama signed it. But even as an entrepreneur myself and running a business at the time, I've always run business. I love business. Anyway, it didn't have a place for me, but I knew about it and I was like, I like it. I like what I can do. But I was not in a position, and I know many other businesses were not in a position. There was one business in particular that was, and Elio, they took advantage of it. They produced a 3-wheel car that I believe got like 60, 70 miles a gallon. Like I said, look it up. Don't quote me on that one. But it was a 3-wheeled car called Elio. And they were one of the first ones to pick up on Regulation A. And they have done a very good job, being that most investors are unaware of what it is, how it works. So I am out here trying to educate people. Here's Regulation A. If you are an entrepreneur, awesome. It's going to help you tremendously. It is perfect for our economy and our technology today. And if you have any questions of how to do it, how to go about it, feel free to message me. I want to see your business succeed. I love the goal process and how it teaches success and progression. And not just that, but if your business succeeds, I might see you as a customer advertising or teaching your customers at dragoneyes.org. So please send me a message. I've got a little experience in that area, and I want to help the best I can. As well, go ahead and look more into it. Please look up my CIK number. Look at dragoneyes.org. How are we going to make money? And if you or anybody you know is anxious to earn a commission of $90,000, and that is not just for the year, that is through the duration of this circular. So if I had somebody who came in and said, wow, I want that 90,000, I believe in your business, I believe in the growth, and they go out there and they sell all $900,000 worth of shares we are authorized to share or sell, then that's $90,000 in a month, 2 months, 3 months. I have further plans beyond that as well. That's where it gets lucrative. So if you are interested, contact me. Apply for the job in the job portal. Like I said, dragoneyes.org, it is about this new economy. It is about helping businesses do things. And new businesses, new employees. I need to hire people. We have the same capability as jobbing.com and monster.com, where businesses can say, I'm looking for employees. Employees can say, I'm looking for businesses. So that needs to get out there, and please apply. I want to see you. I want as many applications as possible to say, you're the perfect person for the Dragon Eyes shareholder representative. So I think I've taken up enough of your time. I'll keep trying to educate you, teach you a little bit more every single day. And in the meantime, believe greatly, achieve greatly.